You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the March 25th meeting of the LaPorte County Regional Sewer and Water District Board. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Calling the meeting of the LaPorte County Regional Sewer District to order for Tuesday, March 25th. If everybody could please rise and salute the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
John Carr.
Here.
Marcella is not here. Jerry Jackson.
Here.
Mitch Bishop.
Here.
Corey Campbell.
Here.
Mark Danielson.
Here.
Amanda Laners. Here. We have a quorum.
Minutes from February 25th.
Motion to accept is presented.
Second.
We got a motion and a second to present or approve the minutes as presented. Any questions? Proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by the word aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Public comment.
Hello?
Anyone wishing to speak needs to state their name and address for the record, and we'll have
Hey,
3
Nick,
minutes
how
to
are you?
speak. Jennifer, can you control the Zoom?
Yeah, doing okay time for in that wire.
I tell you what, could you give me a call like in 2 hours? I'm on a Zoom call and I forgot about it. It was a meeting.
Whoever's on Zoom needs to mute, please.
All right, thank you, sir.
Talk to you later.
Okay, back to public comment.
All right, my name is Angela Eggleston. I'm from 5311 East 800 North in Rolling Prairie, Indiana. All right, from the last few meetings, I've got some questions. And those are, we've gone ahead and we've got the phase 1 that's going to start probably. But what I'd like to know is that all of the phases going to be completed, or is it going to be started and stopped with Doge coming in and cutting back all of this unnecessary waste? Are they going to be able to get the funding that you guys need in order to complete everything? Because I think it's unfair if we can't get the completion done. Second of all, I know you guys are talking about, and that's for the public meeting, but for sewage costs all the way up to $120, that's craziness. That is so crazy. I don't know how you guys expect people that are disabled or retired to be able to add that additional funding into their monthly bills. The other thing is that it has come, when we talked about this, there was 2 people, we found out this has nothing to do with the lake, but it had to do with 2 people that had their sewers that were leaching apparently into their water supply. So, first of all, a lot of people said, well, the houses, they're so close. A lot of people had those houses renovated, and they had those houses brought from fishing shacks to homes. Where's our building department? Why did they allow that if they knew that those were so close? Why aren't they taking care of those problems? Why isn't that a homeowner's responsibility? I go ahead and I pay my taxes. I have everything taken care of. When something fails at my house, I don't ask for a handout to get my problem fixed. It's your responsibility as a homeowner to get that fixed. So why are we having to fund it? Why are all the taxpayers? This is $1 million project, millions of dollars. And you're asking them to pay for something that should be automatic as a responsibility of the homeowners? I don't know whose fault that comes into, but someone failed at their job to not make sure that this was handled. And now you're going to put a sewer project that doesn't even need to be done. I think that's just crazy and it's wild, and I think you guys need to take into account that maybe we need to think about this before we go ahead and proceed, you know. And then in the other public meeting, they talked about the trees for the bid process. When was that disclosed to the people? Do they know, besides hooking up and those costs, that now they have to pay for tree removal service? When are you going to let them know about that? When? When are they going to put that in their budget? You know, this is a multi-million-dollar project on spending, and it's wasteful spending. You know, if I need a roof fixed, are you guys all going to get together and fix my roof? Let's fix all the roofs out there in Saugony Lake. Do you have a fund for that? You know, I look at this as being Medicaid in order to fix it. This is a Medicaid problem. You're asking us to have Medicaid to pay for this. This is wrong. Have the homeowners responsible. Why did the building commission fail us? How did they fail us? That's wrong. They should be up to speed on that. If they
Okay.
need to get the health department in, then they need to get the health department in.
Thank you. Your 3 minutes is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else for public comment? Anybody on Zoom for public comment?
Got one
Oh,
coming
we got
up.
one coming.
Sorry, I didn't say that. Hold on. I'll put my address in. Luann Smith, 5777 East Saugana Trail, Rolling Prairie. I served on the New Prairie School Board for 8 years, and I know as a former member that there were times, you know, when it was very difficult. Decisions had to be made based on challenging circumstances. My first priority was always to base my decisions on what was best for the children and also being accountable to the taxpayers. In my opinion, all officials, elected or appointed, should have the same perspective. Do what's best for the majority of the community, listen and take into consideration the voices of the community members, and be accountable to the taxpayers. If Saugany Lake has a contamination problem that can only be rectified by installing a sewer system, then I wholeheartedly would be in favor of it. However, the facts are not there that the lake is contaminated, and therefore it is not prudent for this board to spend millions of taxpayer dollars to fix a problem that does not exist. I realize that there are a few property homeowners in this community that are, probably do not have a compliant sewer or septic system, but I believe the county should enforce the ordinance already in place and hold those homeowners accountable for their own property. Since there is no guarantee additional funding can be secured to complete this project, it seems irresponsible to start and burden the 86 or whatever the reduced scope ends up being with the cost of this project. Based on the bids received, taking the lowest for Contract A and assuming the mandatory alternates for Contract B, this project would equate to each of the 86 homes, or whatever that, or around that number, would be spending $100,633 per home to put this in. That is not only a shocking amount, but that is totally absurd. We have homes on Saugany Lake that aren't even assessed at that, quite a few actually. I just don't see how you can justify spending that much of the taxpayers' money on a project that has no guarantee of completion. Just even if you take, for example, on your map here, the new outline of what's going to be projected to be put in, on the green, there's $198,000. It's mandatory alternate number 2. The bid, it was $198,321. That's 5 homes. Those 5 homes are only assessed at average $82,000. Okay, and that's $40,000 per home to put this septic in, or sewer, sorry. That makes no sense. I mean, you're spending half of what the assessed value is on a home to put in a sewer system. I just don't understand how you can justify that much money. So I would, please reconsider what would be best for our community as a whole. Enforce the ordinances in place by making the homeowner responsible for their own property. Listen to the voices of the community and be accountable for the taxpayers' money. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My address here real quick.
Anybody on Zoom for public comment? Anybody else here for public comment?
My name is Robert Smith, and I'm at 577 East Saugana Trail, Rolling Prairie. I don't really understand why this is happening either, because they've said pretty much what I've agreed with. $120 a month cap, that's ridiculous. I mean, that's ludicrous. Anyway, I've sat there and I've just talked to Mike Holyfield, and he's a good friend of mine, and I'm glad that he's on a commission now. But I've sat there and I've brought paperwork into you about an effluent system. It's actually a liquid sewer. The cost of actually installing a liquid sewer system is so much less than what these grinder pumps are. They run off 110 volt, which runs off the homeowner's utilities. It doesn't come off the pole. You got 240 volts off a grinder pump. That holds 30 gallons. The effluent system, or liquid sewer step system, that has a 1,000-gallon tank. You're not going to cut out any of the people who pick up the waste, the sewer system, that actually pump these systems out. You're not going to eliminate them. These tanks are actually put on the property, and then they run into a central drain. They have a pump on them. The pump is either a half horse. It's not 2.5 horse, just like your grinder pumps. There's no comparison in it. If you're going to offer something to the people, give us something that, if you're going to do this, give us something that we can actually live with. These grinder pumps, you got some people out there that have 15, 16 people come on a weekend. That grinder pump will never shut off. At 30 gallons, that's nothing. These, if you're going to push it and you're going to shove it up our backside, put something in that the people want. Don't put something in that, and I appreciate you calling me back. I apologize for not getting back with you. But it's never even been put on the table. This effluent system costs so much less. You don't have to have the wastewater treatment. You can actually put it into a lagoon. It doesn't have to be filtered like the grinder pumps do, because you don't have any pulp. There's no solids. And I know, Jimmy, is your name Jimmy? Jerry.
Yeah,
You told me that you didn't think that these effluent systems were used. I talked to some friends of mine at H&G. They just did 144 homes down around Napanee, Warsaw area. They're not putting in the grinder pumps.
I went through some of the EPA documents, and I couldn't find any indication there is any savings. And then the homeowner has costs of pumping the tank. So I didn't see savings.
The tank only gets pumped every 10 to 11 years. It's got an antibacterial thing in it that actually dissolves those solids. That's every 10 to 11 years that it has to be pumped. It doesn't make any sense to sit there and put a grinder pump in that's only got a 30-gallon in it, and you've got to sit there and have problems with it. Those guys at H&G don't want to work on them even. You sit there and they have to tear those things apart and change that grinder motor out. It's a pain. And I asked them about it when they did this. And they said that's why they put the effluent systems in, because they don't have to be checked all the time. The maintenance is way down. The cost of installing them is much less than what my wife just said. It's absurd that we can't actually look at all options on the table to try to give the best to the community. I mean, to bring a sewer system in out at Saugony Lake, you're going to bring in a lot more people. People are going to be building out there. Our lake right now, you could go out there and there's probably maybe 10 pontoon boats, few fishing boats on that lake at any time. You sit there and bring in the sewer system, people are going to build. That lake is not going to be the jewel of Indiana. It's been in the top 5 cleanest lakes in Indiana since I was a child. It's ridiculous. Make the people be responsible for what they, before their homes. In the building department, which Angie was talking about earlier, there's been stuff done out there that is totally against everything. I mean,
those guys are looking at their phones.
What's that?
Jennifer, can we somehow mute that?
What'd they say?
They weren't talking to you. It was just overhead chatter.
Gotcha.
Up there, Jennifer, yeah, you probably have to do that with every one of them.
But I really think if you're going to do the system and you need to go to Hudson Lake first, do that. But right now, we got less than 50% of our homes are occupied year-round. We got 48 homes on the lake. 3 of them, there's nobody in them. But we only have 14 people that live on the lake year-round. That's it. And I don't know why we can't get the health department to come out there and actually do their job, check the stuff out. The people that I know that are on the lake and have signed the petitions, and we've got 134. And the reason we can't get any more right now is because we can't get in touch with people. They're not out at the lake. But you're looking at putting in a sewer system for less than half the homes out there that are going to be utilized. It's just absurd. If something was wrong with the lake, I could see that we could do something for it, because we have our septic tank pumped every other year. We have it inspected. It's a step system. It's a liquid sewer system, and it's fantastic. But we still have it cleaned. I want to know if that lake's getting polluted. We have the conservation club out there, and we have a lot of people that come in fishing boats and stuff that don't belong on the lake, but they're allowed to come in there. If we sit there and put this sewer system in, you're gonna change one of the jewels of Indiana, and it's sad. Mm-hmm. I think we need to address the situation. If there is a problem, let the homeowner fix his own problem. Be responsible. I mean, to bring the government in to do something like this, I think we need to be overlooked. Go to Hudson Lake, do the project there if nobody's, disagreeing with it, but leave Saugony Lake a jewel still.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else for public comment?
Mm-hmm.
My name's Mark Hewer, 5791 East Sagana Trail. Spoke last meeting. I did follow up with an email to Miss Grammarosa, and she forwarded off to Mitch, and Mitch forwarded off to Jennifer. So I would like to thank you for being very responsive to the email that was sent with regards to my issues, with regards to having a septic system put in. In light of the new proposal, and in light of everything you've heard at other meetings and this meeting, I did not, and Jennifer sent this back to me, that I did not meet the exemption time frame. I would like to revoke what I had signed back in October and put in for an exemption. I think it should be our right, given everything's changed with regards to this project itself and what would be the issue with regards to getting an exemption to this. But I would like to put in for an exemption. And like Smitty said, Lou said, everybody said that it has come up here, that if there's not an issue with the lake and the issue is with Hudson, not with Saugony, then go do Hudson. We don't have an issue at Saugony. We're getting lumped in for no particular reason that I can ascertain that would be good for, or any improvement whatsoever to our properties. In fact, it's going to cost me another $30,000 over the next 10 to 20 years just to deal with this, let alone the monthly cost. It's ridiculous. I'm one of the part-time people there, but we've been coming to the lake since I myself since 1980, but my wife's family since the 1940s when they bought property there, and now we have 6 family homes. We don't want this. There's no reason for it. We have a fairly new septic system. It was put into place when the law was in place that you had to have your septic inspected before you could transfer properties, before you could sell property. They put in a brand new system, much like Smitty's system. Works just fine where they're part-time. It's roughly 8 years old, but with usage less than 4 years old. I don't have any problem with regards to this, with regards to a septic system. So I would just request, basically, could I revoke? Would you be willing to let me revoke and follow through actively with getting an exemption to this project if indeed it does go through? But cost benefit wise, it's a layup. There is no cost benefit analysis that you can do that justifies the cost of this. Furthermore, I think I'm going to email Elon Musk and ask Doge to come and look at this type of project. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment? Okay, moving on to reports. Steve Carter, Claims and Finance.
Financials for the month ending February 28th, 2025 for Hudson Saugony Lake. Ending balance, $2,132,844.63. There were only a couple claims paid during the month, and we had interest income of $6,894. For Rolling Prairie, ending balance, $332,165.87. Receipts for the month, $14,940. Operating disbursements, $4,747. Interest income of $353 for a positive cash flow for the month of $10,546. For the toll road service area, ending balances of $542,671. Receipts for the month, $26,960. Disbursements, $21,209. Interest income, $1,448 for a positive cash flow of $7,199 for the month. Claims for your consideration today total $30,491.13.
Sir, entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We got a motion and a second to approve the claims. Are there any questions? Proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by the word aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Asbury monthly report.
Asbury. I think all the there are no issues at the waste treatment plant or the water plant. As far as being in compliance, we will have some additional costs the next month or so installing the UV system, and we'll have ferric delivered in the next few weeks. Ferric is a pretty high cost delivery. The locates were done, and you should be receiving something here in the next few weeks.
Okay. Any questions?
It looks like we got the another quote for the generator maintenance.
Mike?
Right. I tried to get two quotes with being requested somebody from H&T, but I never got a response from H&T, but I did get the H&G response, and I think that's been submitted.
Okay, so which one was you got one last month, and then we have one for H&G. So do we have a suggestion?
I don't believe the routine maintenance was not submitted last month. It was just H&G for the monthly routine or not monthly, the annual routine maintenance.
Okay.
The bill from last month was just getting them up and operating again, making sure that there are no issues currently.
Okay, so we still have just the one quote?
Yes.
Okay. So are you still waiting for H&T, or should we?
I called them. They said they'd call me back. They're whoever was supposed to be giving the quote called me back, but I never got another call. So.
Can you try one more time and call, or are you satisfied with the first quote?
I'm satisfied for the first quote, but I think Marcella is the one that asked us to get a quote from H&T, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the deal is as far as why they haven't responded.
Well, she's not here right now. Could you try one more time, I guess?
I will try one more time, yes.
Okay, but if we don't get anything, should we go ahead and, for $2,100, let's go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
Motion?
Are you
I
good?
make a motion, we accept.
Second.
We got motion and second to accept the quote from H&G for $2,153, I believe.
2025.
What's that? Yeah, thanks. I can't see that. Act like I got two eyes. 212573.
So that was Mark and Jerry?
Yep. Are there any questions on the motion? All in favor signify by the word aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it.
Okay, Chris, so that's approved for the one-year contract with H&G. Will you go ahead and get that going?
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Chris, in your presentation, you said that a certain supplier or chemical is going to be expensive. Do we know what the cost is on that? For the,
We've had several different ways of delivering it. The last time, it was over a year ago, we had a truck come out and deliver a half of a semi-load in that big tank we have, and that seemed to be less expensive, but I don't remember what the cost was. Maybe Steve has record of it?
well, you're going to have a delivery coming soon?
Probably within the next month, yes.
Okay, so when you know that delivery's coming, are you going to get a price from it before it's delivered?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure we have a rough idea of what we're talking about.
Yeah, like I said, it's been over a year ago, and I'm not sure what that cost was at that time.
What I'm saying, Chris, is before it's delivered, you'll know what the cost is.
Correct.
Okay, that's all I was wanting to
Like
make sure.
Asbury, when they send an invoice, they attach the backup information for Steve and I to see. I request that on their invoices, so they usually attach that. Chris, does someone from the district need to sign this agreement for H&G, or does Asbury sign that as the owner?
We could sign it.
Chris, this is Barry. I thought that your recommendation was that you guys sign it, run it through Asbury, and we pay Asbury. It says we'd like to run this through our books at cost plus 10% so we can manage the subcontractor.
Yes, we could do that.
So it probably would be better if Asbury signs it.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, anything else for Chris?
You'll just provide us information and when that's done, and,
Yes.
okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
All right, moving on. We are at JPR.
Nothing more for the billing and collections than what's already provided in your report. Asbury will start taking over the billing services, I believe, as of May 1.
Yeah, I've reviewed the proposed agreement with a few modifications that they made. I don't know if John has signed it or they've gotten it to John to sign. Did you sign a billing agreement with Asbury, John?
Was that last meeting?
No, it was in between.
It would
They were
have
working
shown
out
up maybe a week or two after the last meeting, John.
I think you've been out, so you
Probably
probably
not. Okay,
haven't.
so Chris, could you have maybe a final version of that ready for signature sent to John and copy me and Jennifer?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
Okay. Nothing else, Jennifer?
Yep, that's it.
All right, Phase 2, Dan Bynum, update, closing transferring funds.
All right, I don't really have much of an update on that until we start with disbursements on that. Jennifer, do you know where that is? 'Cause we were
Nothing
gonna
yet. There's nothing going on as far as supplying them with any information.
So no real update on that project closeout. I'll jump into Hudson Saugony, if that's okay with you guys.
Yep.
Okay. First item up is the engineer's recommendation for the Phase 1 project. Attached to the boardable docs, you guys should all have a copy of the engineer's recommendation. I'm going to kind of read through it quickly and summarize it. But basically, bids were collected last Tuesday on March 18th. We received a total of 4 bids for Contract A and 1 bid for Contract B. The low bid on Contract A was $4,403,406. And the low bid on Contract B, that was through TGB Unlimited, I'm sorry. Low bid on Contract B was through Selge Construction. Base bid amount was $2,930,658, and the various mandatory alternates. So we did a thorough review of all of these bids, and we found that all were acceptable in accordance with bidding instructions. We did find one minor math error on TGB Unlimited's bid. Essentially, it was the unit price for, I think it was asphalt pavement as directed by the engineer, didn't calculate correctly when multiplied by the unit quantity. It ended up actually lowering the bid cost by $500. So that's corrected on the certified bid tabs that are attached to this, highlighted in yellow. The low project bids were discussed with both apparent low bidders in TGB and Selge. Both contractors insisted that they were comfortable with their bids as presented. TGB indicated that they would intend to start, mobilize and start construction of Contract A this summer of 2025, and they'd be finished by fall of 2026 when substantial completion would come due. Selge Construction indicated on Contract B that they'd be looking at starting later this fall of this year and would finish roughly the same time TGB would. So after bids were received and we held a handful of meetings, the district's financial advisor and Steve Carter worked hard on developing several user rate scenarios. In fact, we're still in the midst of trying to iron those out, trying to get the operation and maintenance costs to the level where we feel it's accurate to be included in a user rate. And based on the rates for the 6 scenarios that were put together, we have found that the award of the base bid and all mandatory alternates for both contracts is going to be the most cost effective from a rate perspective for the district. So you can see attached to the engineer's recommendation as well, we put together a post-bid project budget and a post-bid project cost summary for the phasing plan, showing phases 2 and 3 in conjunction with the phase we just bid out. Those projects are going to move forward over the next few SRF cycles, pending grant commitments from SRF. We're remaining in the funding program through State Revolving Fund, and will continue to request funds for the next several fiscal years to be able to keep moving forward with the projects. We'd be looking at Phase B closing in March of 26 and Phase 3 closing in March of 27. So over the next handful of years, we're going to continue to push and pursue the completion of this project with SRF. That being said, on the table on page 2 of the engineer's recommendation, JPR recommends that the District Board of Trustees take action on the following. We recommend that the board accept the engineer's recommendation and tentatively award contracts A and B as noted in the table below. We would recommend contract A be awarded to TGB Unlimited in the amount shown, and that contract B be tentatively awarded to Selge Construction in the amounts shown. And we would also request that the district board president issue tentative notices of award upon successful closing. So I have, as part of the package, I have tentative notices of award attached. This is essentially notifying the contractors that we intend to formally award the project upon closing. Did you guys have any questions or anything about the bids or the recommendation?
No, the only thing, like we did at the last meeting, would you be able to stick around if they have a couple questions?
Yeah, certainly.
Because I know there was a lot thrown out, and maybe we can get some of it cleared up.
Sure.
If you have time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. No, I don't have anything else.
What rate is this?
So if the board is inclined to move forward, I would probably recommend you have two separate motions. And JPR has given you a nice script on page 2 of their report for someone to make a motion.
To be clear, the rates would be then set on the 7th?
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, the First Amendment to the restated rate ordinance isn't on the agenda for today. We had our introduction, public hearing, and if the board approves, passage could be had in second and third readings on the April 7th date. So we're not going to do anything on that today.
And are we still in that estimated range after reviewing the bids?
Right. At this point, I feel comfortable that the rates are not going to exceed $120 a month. Hopefully, they'll be lower. Certainly, I think the floor would be like $100, I think, at this point, but somewhere in that 100 to 120 range. We're still looking at how the toll road plays into this. We need to come to an agreement, I guess, internally, and an understanding of what participation level that the toll road is going to have in payments going forward for this project. And then also, as Dan said, kind of putting a fine tune to what the operating cost budget needs to be for the changes in design to the system and how many users we have. So
100 to 120 sounds like a lot of money, but that's typical for a new sewer system. Pine Lake was that expensive 12, 15 years ago, and I know Dan's done some systems since.
Yep, it's right in the typical range of bills.
And our SRF grant, it's right around $5 million, correct?
Yes, correct. At $5 million.
Yeah, no doubt, the project cost is right around $9 million, and 6.5 of that will be covered, $5 million by SRF and 1.5 million by the county's ARPA funds. So we will likely, I don't want to say never, I don't want to be a pessimist, although lawyers are pessimists. I don't know that we will see that percentage of participation in future rates. So there is some incentive to use that money because it will not be back. And the county doesn't want it back and the state doesn't want it back.
It's okay with, hey, Dan, I'm going to make a motion, but I want to make sure I get it correctly.
Okay.
Okay. Contract A for Saugony Lake Pump Station, Forest Main, to TGB Unlimited for $4,403,406. That's the first one. Contract B, Saugony Lake Wastewater Collection System, Selge, $2,930,658. And all of the alternates?
All 5, yes.
I don't need to read those?
You can, I would think you could say as presented in the engineer's recommendation.
As presented in the engineer's recommendation.
So is that all one motion?
Yes.
That can be one motion. There'll be a second motion, presumably, if the board moves forward to authorize the tentative notice of awards.
I'll second that motion.
So we have a motion and a second to approve contract A to TGB Unlimited for $4,403,406, and contract B and all the alternates to Selge Construction for, the base bid is $2,930,658, and all the alternates. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by the word aye.
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 Oppose? Ayes have it. Motion carries.
So there would be,
Yeah.
at this point, the need for a second motion. And again, whoever wants to take the lead and make that motion, you can just read number 2 on the bottom of page 2 of their report, of JPR's report. If you can't find it, I can help out.
The second motion would be to authorize the board district president to issue notice awards upon successful closing of the SRF financing in May 2025. I make that motion.
Second.
Go ahead.
We got a motion and a second to authorize the district board president to issue the notice of awards upon successful closing of the SRF financing in May 2025. And a second, any questions on the motion? Proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by the word aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Okay, timetable checklist.
All right, I've attached a copy of that oh, Jennifer, did you attach it to the boardable
I
stuff?
did not.
Okay,
Oh,
it's in my report.
In the
Yeah. It's
project memo there.
Yep. Really, the notable date on here that I have circled is Monday, April 7th. That's the special board meeting where we're going to put together the final rate study and present it via a public hearing.
Okay.
Otherwise, we are on track for our proposed closing date in late May.
Okay.
All right, I will go ahead and move on to the project update. Not a whole lot of updates on the design topics other than the bids that were already discussed. However, item 4, asset management plan updates. It's late March, so it's that time of year again for asset management plan. I will be forwarding an updated asset management plan to the district board before March 31st, next Monday. That is the deadline that asset management plans are due to State Revolving Fund to remain in good standing in order to be scored on the project priority list in July, and to ensure that we get the maximum amount of points during said scoring. If you recall, we set up an asset management plan a couple of years ago, and they just require an annual update to it now. And we've been working with Barry establishing a cybersecurity program. That's a new requirement for asset management plan. Between us and Barry, we've put together a handful of cybersecurity agreements that the district board will essentially hold with their vendors. The point of a cybersecurity plan is essentially to identify critical infrastructure, protect sensitive information, sensitive personal information, and then to develop a response plan in case some sort of breach happens. So this is an agreement between the district and its vendors to ensure that kind of thing's going on. So in addition to that, Steve, I'm still waiting on an updated Section 3 from you to finalize the asset management plan updates. It'd just be an update to Section 3. You have a copy of the updated inventory and everything, right? Okay, good.
I'll get it to you by the end of the week.
Okay, perfect.
That's what I forwarded yesterday to you again. And John, I have a couple of the cybersecurity agreements for you here to sign, and then I will be forwarding you to electronically sign 3 more, if you can do that as well.
Okay.
And the last thing with asset management plan, we don't actually submit the actual asset management plan to SRF directly. We just send them a certification indicating we've put it together and updated it. So I have that drafted. It's in the project packet, but we may have to adjust the capital costs and O&M number at the bottom of that. So I would recommend, if it's possible, if we could have the district board authorize John to sign that certification outside of a meeting once I get Steve's updated numbers and can put them down there.
So move.
Yeah, I think so.
Second.
Who made the motion?
Mark, so there's a motion and a second to give the district board president authorization to sign what?
The asset management plan certification.
The asset management plan certification. Any questions on the motion? Proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by the word aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it.
All right. On to item 5, project permitting. We now have a handful of other permits in hand. The drainage board permit's been approved, and it's been determined we don't need a hold harmless agreement or anything like that. They're just waiving that for this permit. We have had a little bit of trouble going back and forth with the railroad trying to get a finalized permit from those guys, so we'll really be pushing on them here in the next month to get that approved before closing. But the last piece of the puzzle is since the county MS4 approved the permit, we're now ready to move forward with the notice of intent with the state for the stormwater general permit. So we've actually already filed that permit on behalf of the district online. We just have to follow up with like a wet ink signature submittal on the form itself. So I have a copy of that to have John sign so we can send it in following this meeting. Go on to update on land acquisition. With the reduced scope project, we're basically looking at, we have 68% of the easements in hand and 32% are needed but not completed. I believe we're targeting 80% before closing, right, Jennifer?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that on the current project or is that on the general?
As on the current project. And that's actually a similar number for all of Saugony Lake. We have 68% of the total easements in all of Saugony. So, I mean, those will still be needed when we come back and do phase 2 in the future.
Right.
So, and that's, I think, all I've got. Yep, that's all I got.
Thanks. Thanks, Dan.
Yep.
Okay, moving on. Executive Committee. No meeting held.
Nope.
Okay, new business. Next meeting, April 22nd.
Oh, we have, go back up there, we have one more notice.
Statutory
Extension. We had one more property that did have the inspection completed, that met the timeline, that completed their approval, and Health Department approved. That's for 5685 East 800 North, that the Health Department approved, and I need the board's approval for their exemption.
Motion to approve the exemption.
What was the address again?
5685 East 800 North.
Okay.
Who made the motion?
I did.
Thank you.
Who's that?
Second.
The motion is second to approve the exemption for 5685 East 800 North. Any questions on the motion? Proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by the word aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Next meeting date, April 22nd. April 7th is public hearing, special meeting. Amended and restated bond ordinance attached.
So if we're to the point of the amended and restated bond ordinance, we need to introduce that today. We would theoretically approve that as well as the amendment to the rate ordinance on the April 7th special meeting. But what I would recommend is that we introduce this ordinance or proposed ordinance by title only, because unless you want to read about 40 pages of ordinance, but I'm happy to read that. And then I think Tom Everett is here from Barnes and Thornburg, who can answer any questions and hopefully give an exceedingly brief summary of what they did, because it's obviously pretty complicated, pretty convoluted. But I am happy to read, if the board wants, this proposed amended and restated bond ordinance by title only, unless someone has an objection and wants.
Title only's good for me.
So there's no objection? All right. An amended and restated bond ordinance authorizing the acquisition, construction, and installation of certain improvements for the sewage work system of the LaPorte County Regional Sewer and Water District, the issuance of revenue bonds to provide the cost thereof, the collection, segregation, and distribution of the revenues of such system, the safeguarding of the interests of the owners of such revenue bonds, and other matters connected therewith, including the issuance of notes in anticipation of such bonds and repealing ordinances inconsistent herewith. So maybe Tom Everett from Barnes and Thornburg could give a very brief overview of really what this is and what it does.
Yep. Good morning, Tom Everett with Barnes and Thornburg, and we serve as bond counsel to the district. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes. Good morning.
Okay. Good morning. So this is an amended and restated bond ordinance. The board previously adopted a bond ordinance back on October 25th of 2022, which authorized bonds of the district in an amount not to exceed $35 million for the Hudson and Saugony sanitary sewer project. So that ordinance was adopted back in 2022. And the ordinance contemplated that the bonds would be sold to the Indiana Finance Authority through its state revolving fund program. But since 2022 and the original ordinance was adopted, the Indiana Finance Authority has changed some of the standard terms that they require in these types of bond ordinances, as well as their form of financial assistance agreement, which is Exhibit B to the bond ordinance. So this amended and restated bond ordinance amends and restates the 2022 bond ordinance to include the latest terms that the Indiana Finance Authority requires. So this, the bond ordinance does not change the maximum amount of bonds authorized under the bond ordinance. It doesn't change the maximum interest rate, which is 5%. It does authorize bond anticipation notes up to $5 million. And again, authorizes bonds to be purchased by the Indiana Finance Authority in an amount not to exceed $35 million. I'm happy to answer any questions on the bond ordinance. These bonds would be payable from revenues of the district. And again, this is not changing any of the substantive terms of that 2022 bond ordinance. It's really updating it to include the latest terms that the IFA requires. And I think, as has been mentioned, this would be up for first reading today and then up for consideration for second reading and adoption at the meeting, at the special meeting on April 7th.
Okay.
I have no questions.
So, Tom, if no one has questions, do you prefer a motion to set it over to the next hearing, or we just set it over to the next meeting?
I think a motion would be advisable, just to carry it forward to the next meeting.
I agree.
Do we need a vote for the approval on first reading today?
Well, when you say approval, what do you mean?
Do they need to vote it for first reading, or just is the reading itself sufficient? Do they need to make a vote on it to approve the amendments?
No, I don't think we're voting on the amendments. We're not voting on the substance of it until the April 7th meeting. I think we're just voting to move it to second reading.
Okay.
Entertain a motion.
So move.
So this is a motion to approve by title only for first reading?
Sure, you can phrase it that way. The ultimate approval isn't happening till April 7th, yes.
So move that.
Okay.
Second.
So we got a motion and second to approve the amended ordinance on first reading as
Correct.
by title only. Any questions? Proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by the word aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Audit. Anything? Finishing?
The audit was completed, and we had the exit interview. Steve and I did, and I think it came out very well. And we will have the final report. We'll probably send to the board and everyone, probably next month. We'll have the documents. And I think it was actually very well. Very well.
Good.
Yeah, I
John?
think all things considered, it was very clean. There were some questions about internal control documents, but I think we got those cleared up at the end.
I
So
think we sent them.
it was an audit finding in the previous audit, and Jennifer and I swore that we had complied with it, and so we had to dig
sent
and
them the
find it, but I think we
documents
finally
again.
found where the board adopted
Yeah.
it, so.
Yeah. I think they had one finding, if that, and
Okay, Jennifer, was there anything on the pre-agenda there?
no.
No?
Mm-mm,
Okay.
just the regular date, and that was it.
Okay, old business, interlocal. Barry, did we get our 1.5 million from the county yet?
We do not. We
We
get
will
that
get
after
that.
we close on the loan in May. We have, I think, 30 days or 45 days. We give them notice that we got the rest of our financing, and then that process begins with the county.
It's just sitting in a fund.
All right.
The county.
Jennifer, when is the
Entertain a
April
motion to
7th?
adjourn?
Is that 9 o'clock?
We got
9
motion and
a.m.,
second
yes,
to
I believe.
adjourn. Any questions on the motion? Proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by the word aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All in favor, ayes have it. Meeting adjourned at 9:56.